Nico.
Yeah, Niket has been unreal on Nico as a playmaker. It's easily been his most consistent champion, but it is going to be the Xin Zhao as that first pick. We were just talking about something a little bit more skirmish heavy for milkyway, something he can actively adjust the tempo of the game on, you know, really speed things up, play for his lanes. That does leave something like the Naafiri over, but Xin Zhao typically considered one of the better counters to Naafiri. I like this start for RNG. It's all going to be really about how they want to, you know, round this out, but you know, I think getting something that can fight in the early game is a good start at the very least.
All right, I was going to see, so I wanted to make sure, I was like, was Naafiri even out the last time Beisheng was playing? Technically, she was. Obviously not meta relevant, but she came out in the summer of 2023. So, Beisheng is living in the moment. He said, it's my time. This is the last time I played. But no, it is going to be the Naafiri with the Taliyah locked in. A very strong mid-jungle duo that we said needs to be consistent tonight. The answer on the other side for RNG is to get JiaQi that Varus.
Yeah, this is the most standard comp you could possibly ask for RNG right now. Just something that you can flex into whatever you need at this point. Varus, I think a lot of people would consider to be the best AD carry in the game. Certainly up there for one of the best AD carries in the game. You pair that up with Xin Zhao, probably the best early skirmisher. And then Ahri as a match to the Taliyah. You want to make sure you can get out on the map and affect a lot of those big jungle fights for a lot of those objectives. And that's what Ahri Xin Zhao really excels at, especially in comparison to, you know, the Taliyah on the other side, which you need to get out early, and so I'm interested to see that, but it will be the Sion, hopefully to keep Hery safe on the top side.
The prio on mid-jungles for both sides is definitely going to be even more important now, not only because we wanted it to be, but because of the picks here. A lot of mobility available to either side from that mid lane. The Sion could be a massive wall for RNG to try to deal with, and maybe they go with that lethal tempo Varus to try to chunk him down a little bit. The Nautilus ban in the second phase by OMG, also followed by the Jhin ban by RNG towards Starry.
Yeah, I think Jhin ban makes a lot of sense here. The Naafiri is going to be a big primary carry. Getting something for Starry that can be really good as a facilitator for that off the board is obviously a great idea. I'm interested to see if we're going to see a Rel ban come in. That's been pretty consistent against Moham and something that I think a lot of teams have wanted to go towards. We see the Yorick ban come out. We don't want any sort of side lane action happening here today. We want to force that matchup to exist throughout the back half of the game. Makes sense when you've got something like a Sion and even a Taliyah in the mid lane to make sure that Yorick is not creating that havoc, but I imagine this will be, you know, one of those engaged supports, but it's going to be the Zeri. Interesting. So kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum with the Jhin and the Zeri in terms of utility and carry potential.
They're going to save the final pick for Starry as they grab the Alistar just in case RNG wanted to grab that one for Niket. I think another one that Niket's always great at is the Rel, if they want to try to go for that with some engage potential for him. But he will be an engage-centric champion, usually hovers towards that, and needs to be, at least for this front line that RNG are trying to develop.
Yeah, it obviously works for the comp. Having an engager is really important to establish, you know, an ability to go in the late game, but especially for someone like Niket, he's the playmaker for this team. Yep. He's the one that starts everything, creates everything. I don't want to see him on something passive, and especially with the Varus. I'm really expecting something aggressive here, perhaps a Leona or a Braum. Makes a lot of sense to try and play out the 2v2 as well. You know, going into something like Alistar protects against a lot of different AD carry options. Just gives you a bit more consistency. But I do want to highlight the tempo. Yeah, I like the Aatrox here. I think that's going to be pretty big. It will be the Rel. We do see the playmaking coming out, but I really like the Aatrox here. We're seeing that pick up in tempo a lot across the world in terms of how much it's getting picked across the year, and I think we're seeing it because it's just so stable in the back half, and we'll see the comp rounded out with Kai'Sa on the other side.
True. We'll see if it actually ends up being the valuable LPL Kai'Sa that we know it always can be. I know Starry's going to be very interested. This will be the first Starry Kai'Sa of the split so far, but he's obviously played it before. And the compositions very much rely on both ADCs being set up for success by the rest of the teams here coming into game number 1.
Yeah, I really like this draft for OMG. I think it's really foolproof in terms of being able to get to the late game and having ways to win fights. I don't think they have the most I guess, skirmish potential in the early game, especially going into Xin Zhao and Ahri, and I think that could theoretically be a problem, but I think their bot lane should have quite a bit of tempo in this matchup if Naafiri wants to actually invest resources into that, and I think the later this goes, the easier it is. They have so much engage in terms of how they play these fights. I think the Alistar's got a ton of setup, and Naafiri Kai'Sa is a dangerous duo in the back half. I think a lot of the pressure in this one is going to be on RNG to utilize that Xin Zhao and even really the Aatrox and the Ahri on the top side to their fullest to get a big early lead, or else I think things are going to get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah, we'll see how quickly that does boil down. Again, we expect chaos. This is a group Nirvana bout between two teams that have not won a series yet. They've won one game, and that matters a lot because now we come into a series that matters so much for both teams. Needing a win here to stave off that darkness for a little bit longer, and we'll see if it's going to be between OMG or RNG, two historically very important, very legacy organizations in the LPL, even if time has maybe forgotten them. But a game number one set up for both teams. Baishang coming in the jungle to try to save this OMG team, while milkyway and RNG just try to find what works for them. I know the jungle is going to be a hyper highlight tonight, but game one should be an absolute banger as we kick off the night with OMG versus RNG in Shanghai.
Yes.
Man, the OMG fans forgot. They forgot. They
didn't get the memo today.
Unfortunately
right.
for
We got
them,
a little bit of
RNG has
stragglers,
won
yeah.
more MSIs recently. So you.
Oh yeah, that's the unfortunate. That's definitely what's going on between these two teams here. I'm interested to see what the pathing is. I'm glad to see that there's some support. I'm really excited for this series, but one of the reasons I really want to watch this early game is Milky Way is going to be very important towards where this game ends up going. We talked in draft about how there's a lot of pressure on RNG to establish tempo early. That's Milky Way's job in this one, as we already see a little bit of an exchange here.
We've had fighting like literally across the entire map so far. I will say the plasma stacks will start hurting pretty heavily as we are going to get double lethal tempo in the bot lane. And this has been a transition that I've really appreciated, is that we're definitely trending away from the more lethality builds on both sides of things, more the AP build on the Kai'Sa, and going towards these lethal tempo, more fight-heavy 2v2s.
Yeah, you want to see these players be aggressive, and we're seeing it.
Okay. JiaQi will have us a lot of damage. Moham, unfortunately, gets the heavy trade back, and now JiaQi gets the cleanse out of Starry, so that'll be 3 summoner spells burned by the OMG bot lane, and only the ignite from Niket.
That's a massive trade for RNG. I was really looking for this Kai'Sa to start to establish 2v2 prio early through Moham and his ability to play up in lane. It's gone now. That's completely eliminated. You can no longer step up really at any point. That limits the options that Baishang has in terms of where he wants to play the map. I already expect mid lane to not have as much tempo as you want, and Sion, not really something you can play for. That could be problematic for the Neferi in terms of some early pathing, but Milky Way, gonna look for that aggression we were talking about.
Waiting, trying to get the flash play. A little bit zealous there with that one. Not going to hit the wind, becomes lightning. Nothing else going to be of it. And Baishang now going to go for an aggressive path towards bot side. If the Neferi gets off the ground, that's massive. They had the vision there to realize they don't have anything from RNG. Now they find the angle here onto Niket. He's going to crash down, but around the corner goes Baishang as he tries to get the Darkened Dagger.
Oh.
There you go. The puppies pick it up. First blood for OMG.
That's a fantastic gank from Baishang. That's really his only timer down on the bot side to be able to make that play. He understands that that is a necessity. He skips full clearing, which is pretty standard on Neferi, to go and make that, and he just has enough damage this early on in the game. Getting that Neferi accelerated is absolutely ginormous for OMG. We just talked about how that was necessary for them to stabilize in the mid game, and that's exactly what they did. Looking forward, you know, their comp scales incredibly well, so much better, as we said in draft. Getting that first kill on Neferi and really getting some tempo here is a huge game changer.
Might be able to try to contest for the double scuttle here, as he's going to take that scuttle on the bot side. Milky Way will immediately transition up towards top. Back had to come through from Charlotte there. We'll have TP to get back, but the scuttle crab fight will go the 1-for-1. Now we immediately have the lane swap coming out 2 minutes ahead of time now, so very much ahead from Starry and Moham as they're going to try to take down this 2v1 into a 2v2 now that we get the counter transition from RNG.
We've seen this become a lot more common on blue side, where you make that transition to the top side with your bot lane a lot earlier into the game, around this 4.5-minute mark, because you do just want to make sure that there's no way the enemy team can establish that pressure onto Void Grubs. We talk about it all the time, but the LPL values Void Grubs so incredibly highly because they do want to play for a lot of that tempo, at least traditionally more so than the other regions over the course of this year, and, you know, we're seeing that once again. I'm really going to be looking for what milkyway wants to do in the next couple of minutes, because I think whatever he decides to do, whether that's prioritize the Void Grubs here, try to play around JiaQi and Niket, or whether it's going to be to sack that and go for the bot side, I think it's going to be really telling as to where the priority for RNG is going to go, but it's topside action here.
3v3 of Bruin. Vision will be played towards by RNG as they were able to spot out Beishang, so now milkyway going to take his place as his back is going to be coming through. Nothing else going to come of it here. Some resets before the grub fight. Dragon has been left to the wayside here as both junglers actually pathing down towards bot side. So maybe trying to read each other a little bit as we go, as the respawns for milkyway will be coming up here shortly.
Definitely interesting to see the junglers basically mirror each other. This is to the huge advantage of Beishang if this continues. The more this game kind of stalls out and the less we see priority on things like Void Grubs, I think the more that's going to favor OMG moving forward. We do see the pathing coming in now. Beishang going to be looking to get onto that top side. Niket is going to be able to see him, though they could run into each other here.
Niket does spot him out. The Iron Horse is also spotted by Beishang as we also have to start thinking about the catch-up potential of a very even game if it's going to come to it. And I know you said that OMG definitely a little bit favored if the state continues like this. And that's where we need to really see that up in tempo of the connections between Tangyuan and Milky Way. Because that is going to kick off now that we're about to hit level 6 for them.
Yeah, Tangyuan hitting level 6 I think is pretty massive for this comp, just to be able to make sure the Ahri can be a priority playmaker in this fight. We'll see if we actually see it now. Beishang playing very aggressive here.
They are just setting up the tension here. Oh, Xiaoxu on the bot side, going for the all-in with the World Ender here. Needs to be a little bit careful as Hery, pretty tanky. He's going to try to get out with the Unstoppable Onslaught and takes the train out of there. As the grubs have been started up by RNG. OMG are right here. Beishang going to take the first one. And now RNG can step in with this smite double hit by Moham, but the charm does connect onto Charlotte. The crash down dodged out of, but Charlotte's already gone now as well. Milky Way getting low. The triple hits, though Beishang can't get him. The dog didn't have the distance. And now back into the fight onto Moham, and RNG getting resets for Tangyuan. As Starry is going to be ran down. As the charm comes through, he's going to burn the cleanse. Maybe he has the distance. Can he get away? That Faker skin, it just gives you a little bit more movement speed, don't it? As they're going to take that kill and go 4-1 in the early game in favor of RNG.
What a massive fight from RNG. 4 kills there is absolutely outstanding for them. They couldn't have asked for any more. OMG full commit. They bring almost everybody up to try to make that fight work, and I'm not really sure why. This is the exact fight that RNG needed to have happen in this game in order to get back in it, but we're going to see how this ended up going down. Tangyuan was in a really great spot here. A great knockup by Moham to be able to start this off, but the Ahri on the flank immediately bursts down Charlotte. And when this Talia is out of this fight, it's really not possible for OMG to be able to win it from this point onwards. Tangyuan, again, really great positioning, but just a really great setup, and honestly a very questionable decision to fully engage on that fight, in my opinion, from OMG.
Hey, and I'll take any time I can to harp on Tangyuan, as he has been the RNG guy coming in when all those fluctuations were happening mid lane. He even played ADC at one point, you know, support rather, in bot lane to fill in for all those roster fluctuations we were getting from RNG at the end of last year. But this guy's been really fun to watch, even though he's been on RNG through all these bad times. I still do find some bright moments from him, and now he's got the Rod of Ages completed. Start getting that stacking. He's 2-0-2, and we said how important the mid jungles were going to be for their jungle setup, and now Tangyuan can truly set up Milky Way in a lot of these fights.
Yeah, the double stacking has started here with the Dark Seal and the Roa in the mid lane. Tangyuan is now the most important player in this game in terms of where you want to put a lot of that pressure. Drake is still up. It's still a prioritizable objective for RNG, and especially with all that gold that just went over, the 1k gold lead in the mid lane, I would imagine that tempo is entirely in favor of RNG. We'll see if OMG want to continue to try and push forward and contest this, but with a 2k gold lead already, I find it difficult to imagine a world where Beishang can step up and try to take this, but we could see something over the blue buff here.
They're just flexing their muscles a little bit at this point. It's pretty darn early to have a fluttering 2,000 gold lead there. It's not even the good skin, okay? Get the hot dog to Fury in here, and then we talk.
You can never be too sure in the LPL. I see people walking up to blue buff, and I just immediately have to ask myself, do I think there's going to be a full engage here over blue buff? It's something that you can never really be, too sure about. But, this is the state we expected in the early game RNG with a ton of the priority. milkyway, I think, did a great job in that fight, but the mid-jungle duo now needs to keep this pressure up. It doesn't change the win condition here for OMG to see this big gold lead in favor of RNG. They still have a ton of damage in the late game, and they're still going to be able to scale. Looking for plays here could be a good place to start. I don't think they're going to find anything up top, but just being able to stall the game out is probably the name of the game for OMG here.
Did end up seeing that dragon go the way of RNG, as the next dragon will be a mountain dragon to potentially get them to 2. The other big importance is that in about 40 seconds or so, the next spawn of grubs will be there. It is 2-1 right now, so no Grubageddons today, but still an important objective for both sides, especially with the siege potential for both of them.
The side lane potential becomes very scary very quickly for RNG, with Tangyuan playing really well and having so much gold. It makes it very difficult to catch a lot of those waves. The grubs are going to be an even higher value objective for that. We see them spawning in 15 seconds, as was mentioned. Beishang is going to be first to that objective. I just don't think they're going to be able to establish that priority, though. The moment that the rest of the team shows up, I imagine that it's going to go in favor of RNG. This would be a very aggressive play for OMG if they wanted to make it, but it looks like they do.
Look at the pings from RNG. They realize they have the item spikes. They just got double Sundered Skies completed for this top lane skirmish duo. So OMG realized they maybe need to back away, are going to get in and get that one grub. They will keep RNG just to 4 in total.
This is a great play from Beishang, understanding that we just got to get 1. We got to make sure they don't get 5. That's really the only thing that we were worried about. They get in, they get that grub, and they get out. They do not want to fight at this point in the game. It's not going to go well. But as we look forward into what these teams are going to be playing for, RNG need to keep this pace up. We talked about it again. I hate to keep reiterating it, but in draft, RNG's comp is entirely based around finding these plays and then playing around side lanes, with Aatrox and Ahri being able to push as quickly as possible. You've set yourself up to be in a good spot, but this game can just as easily flip if, over the next 10 minutes we don't see as much action. I want to continue to see RNG.
We're in Group Nirvana. Flipping is the name of the game.
Exactly.
That's what we're here for. That's what we came for. That's what we paid the big bucks for. See some craziness. It's like going to Jurassic Park. You know something bad's going to happen, but you're there to entertain yourself.
I hope it doesn't end quite as bad as Jurassic Park ended up ending.
I don't know. One of these orcs is getting chopped down by the T-Rex in the porta potty, and I don't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah, right now, OMG definitely not looking perfect at the start of this game, but I do think there are avenues back in. Starry's in an okay spot, and I think the Kaisa is going to be very important as this game goes along. I'm going to continue to watch it. We highlighted it early on in our coverage here that Starry is very important to what OMG want to do, and he's still in a position where he can affect the game quite a bit. You were talking about the build earlier, but the Kraken finished for him. He's going to really be a big piece moving forward. I need to see Charlotte starting to get out on the map as well, though.
Speaking of big piece, it's really funny. He used to jungle for OMG's LPL squad, Oh My Dreams, all those years ago. But he's been a part of the OMG organization for a long time, ever since 2021. Obviously has been the ADC through a lot of situations, through the kind of subbing in as well, but finally getting his shot almost over, just a little bit over a year ago now, I guess, at the start of spring. And it's been really fun to watch the team kind of build around him as well. I know things haven't been necessarily the greatest, but I know you talked about at the beginning of the day, he has been one of the brighter spots on this OMG's recent memory.
Yeah, Starry has been very good for a team that has not always been able to match that kind of pace. You know, we saw that last year. People forget that this was a Group Nirvana team that looked really bad at the start of summer, and then everything kind of came together. They almost made playoffs, and, you know, I think people were hopeful that it was going to happen again, but for OMG now, Starry is the name of the game. You talked about this org. We even said it before, having a good eye for talent and understanding and, you know, being able to develop a lot of these younger players. Starry's going to be in a big position on the Kaisa here. We'll see if he's going to be able to make that work. 40 seconds on Mountain Dragon spawning here, about a minute and a half on Rift Herald. RNG is going to be able to prioritize whatever they want here. Beishang going to try and get something invading this jungle. I don't imagine there's going to be a full collapse, but it's really going to be up to Milky Way which objectives they want to prioritize here.
I like this connection right now. See if OMG can find something. Maybe just going to even up the dragons here, but they look at bot lane. Trying to dive Xiaoxu. He has ulti, has flash. This is scary. He's going to pop the Whirlwinder. Moham going to get CC down, though. The turret's starting to tank up. The Unbreakable will be just enough as Xiaoxu doesn't go down. And now Tangyuan coming in for the resets. Will end up getting the flash out of Beishang.
They just don't have the damage. It's a really aggressive play, but we're going to see a counterplay in the mid lane here.
The flash from JiaQi is now they turn on to Hery. The turret also goes down, so there's no defensive structures, but they don't know where the rest of OMG fled off to. They will back away after that one, but this means prio for RNG over the Dragon would be second for them of the game.
I think OMG understood that they couldn't contest the Dragon. I say that, but we see a teleport down in the bot lane. We see two teleports coming in now.
This is the Group Nirvana vibes that I love as we get the TP from Hery, immediately crescent guarded by Milky Way, which is an interesting utilization because now it's going to fall. Nobody else can really follow up. He really didn't want to give over that second dragon as Niket finds a double knock up there. Moham going to go in. Niket getting low now too. Gets hit by the stray rock by Charlotte. Now Starry getting low. JiaQi is pumping some damage on this early lethal tempo as that seismic shove does connect again on the Xiaoxu. A little bit of blood, but it is looking like Dragon's going to be left for the wayside for now. We're just looking for fights, baby.
What a chaotic mess that was for both of these teams. OMG burn almost everything to try to find a pick before that fight even starts and still invest both of the teleports to get in to try and fight over Dragon. They end up catching RNG so off guard that they're pretty out of position and they're able to capitalize, pick up a 1-for-0. The problem is OMG don't have enough damage, as we were stating earlier, to really be able to capitalize in the way that they need. So with only Niket going down, that should, you know, it is going to be Dragon here for Milky Way, and all of that fighting was just over 1 kill. It's a lot of resources burned from OMG for that.
Absolutely insane. And that being said, we look at the state of the map, and there are some decent leads now being developed by RNG. Still a consistent plus 2K in the gold difference. There is the Rift Herald now coming up. Both teams kind of surrounding this side of the map. We end up seeing a little bit more priority given to RNG here as they come out for the redeploy.
Everything at full strength, it's really hard for OMG to walk into this. It's almost impossible for them to feel comfortable around an Ahri, around a Varus, and, you know, trying to make plays on that regard, especially with Aatrox catching the wave bot. This should be a free Rift Herald for RNG. We'll see if OMG want to keep playing aggressive, though.
Oh, they caught him out now, too. Niket loses his entire health bar, but so does Moham, almost. Not going to join Niket there. Unstoppable Onslaught dodged out by JiaQi as the Rift Herald goes down to Milky Way. Oh, no. He used it immediately. Maybe it's an escape tool. Nope, it's not going to come out fast enough. JiaQi is down. Now he uses the Rift Herald to take the engage. The headbutt comes through. He's getting multiple knockups. Big brain Milky Way. That's kind of stuff that made him so popular in his debut with FPX. And here he is on the cusp for RNG to take this game 1.
Milky Way coming up so clutch for RNG in that fight. You said it best, the big brain play of using the Rift Herald so creatively. It's a fantastic fight for RNG, but once again, I have to be questioning what OMG is thinking because we keep highlighting this over and over again. They scale so well. They should be so good in the back half of this game, and yet they feel the pressure to try to make a play. It looks good at the start here with Niket getting caught, but it's just the rel. Moham takes almost his entire health bar, and with Hery on the flank, unfortunately, they're just completely disconnected. Tangyuan, we'll see here. He's going to actually be 3-hitting for a lot of this fight. A fantastic charm onto Starry to be able to start this up and really negate a lot of the damage caught out by Beishang to leave him high and dry. But Xiaoxu makes his way in, and those those resets start coming in. Tangyuan, really fantastic stuff. And then, of course, milkyway with the really creative play. But once again, it's OMG overexerting themselves. RNG with the fight potential in the middle of this game and utilizing it to the fullest.
Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff you love to see in last gasp efforts to keep your season alive, potentially your next season, too. As we always have to reiterate the fact that both teams are playing for their lives in Split 3. Not even Split 2, but also Split 2. And trying to figure out if they're going to be a part of the LPL for the rest of the year, or if we have to see them in 2026, as we do get set up on this top side with the redeploys from OMG. Still hefty gold advantage now, bursting up to 4,000 gold in total for RNG on the map. And it looks like a little bit of a state of a lull as we reach to those second items for a majority members on Royal Never Give Up.
The gold lead is big, but it's especially big in the middle of the map right now. You can see a 1.3k gold lead for Milky Way, a 1.5k gold lead individually for Tangyuan. This is a great spot for RNG, about as strong of a start as you could ask for. This Ahri is going to be massive, and we could see some more fighting here. Milky Way getting chunked out just a little bit. Moham's actually pretty deep on the flank here. He might be a little bit caught.
All right. Hex flash out, but he got seen. The crash down comes through. Moham, your adventures will not end positively here, as he's going to pop the Unbreakable. He's just being annoying now. We could get the Yakety Sax music going. Shout out to Papa Smithy as we get another. Wait, Beishong also died? Oh, God. Things are falling apart. Maybe that leadership we talked about, Beishong trying to come in to save OMG, it's not working out. And RNG starting to run away with this game number 1 now as they move over to the Atacon. The play is on Tangyuan, as he's going to just get the Spirit Rush out. Milky Way is right there. Will have to burn his ultimate there, but they'll be able to turn back onto this objective.
Yeah, it's just desperation plays coming in from OMG. A gigantic flank from Moham, trading ult for ult from Charlotte, just hoping they can catch one of the players making some sort of egregious error. RNG is in such a strong spot. It's really hard for OMG to make plays here. Otacon will be going down on the top side for RNG. That's a pretty fantastic pickup for them. Tangyuan can just pretty easily catch this wave, and there's just nowhere on the map to play for OMG, and I think they do have themselves to blame a little bit. We're going to see what happened here with Beishong. Just got caught on a ward. Tangyuan staying proactive.
Oh, he used the... Oh, no.
That is brutal.
Oh, God,
That is brutal.
Everything's not going Beishong's way in that play of event, or that series of events there, as another dragon started up by RNG, and they're looking to go to Soul Point now with their big lead. Still hovering around that 4,000 mark here, but I love that Tangyuan is having this kind of performance here on a series that is so important for a guy that's been in the RNG at least organization since 2022. Has been a bit of a build-up for him, has been a bit of a prodigy. They tried to kind of build through their Royal Club system and bring into RNG after all those big names, Angel, things along those lines were here, and it really has been a situation where we really want to see Tangyuan succeed in a lot of ways, because he has had some really good performances, and at least this is a little microcosm of that.
Yeah, and he's coming up big today. That is definitely the case. This Ahri is absolutely massive towards the win condition for RNG. But really, at this point, the thing that I'm looking for is this Baron spawning in 2 minutes. That's the real objective that I think we're going to see the importance on throughout the rest of this game. That Baron is going to be necessary to contest for OMG. We could try and see a potential pick on the top side, but Tangyuan is just so difficult to lock down. Charlotte taking so much of his health bar just to try and get some level of poke down on the Ahri. Yeah, we see the rotation up. There's just not really a lot to play for here for OMG with that Otacon up. Looks like top tier 2 is going to be that objective.
How is it fair that Tangyuan has almost 3,000 health? That's so nuts. I know we've people have gone back and forth if they like the Ahri tank build with the Roa start and things along those lines. But once you start building all these health items, you just get ridiculously strong as a champion that can 100 to 0 weaker units, as now we get that big magnet sword
engage.
coming in with the Chains of Corruption. RNG just hit the wombo combo under turret 2 with Xiaoxu now tanking up and getting the resets on the World Ender. He's in a little bit deep now, though. Gonna heal up a decent amount. Now Tangyuan gonna follow him up. They can try to get the resets, but Tangyuan flashing can't hit the charm. Is now gonna be chased down. He's gonna go golden, gets one of the kills. Look at the Faker resets coming through. He's gonna go down now himself, as it is absolute chaos in OMG's side of the base. RNG have lost their minds as JiaQi watches his entire team fall ahead of him.
I think they thought they were playing with house money, but I don't think they looked at the timers because they ended up really overextending for that fight. They wanted to try and capitalize on the Otacon, but they just didn't end up making it in time. You end up trading 3 shutdowns, I believe, over in favor of OMG. That's a really nice get for OMG. That's a lot of gold in their favor. This looked okay for RNG at the start. Niket wanting to be aggressive. Charlotte trying to block this off. It was a great Magnet Storm engage here coming in from Niket, but it's just not enough damage trying to fight under tower. Milky Way's not really able to get in this fight at all. JiaQi was definitely not able to get in this fight at all, so a very disconnected exchange from RNG, and if OMG is going to have a way back into this game, it's going to be getting free shutdowns like this.
You get the Atacon GAs there, so the gold is a little bit fluctuated with the 200 per body. A little bit more with the shutdown, obviously, but I think it's interesting to see RNG just try to use the voracious Atacon while we still have it. So honestly, kudos to RNG for utilizing this these GAs.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting play, but we're gonna see what OMG wants to do beyond this, right? Because you got to keep looking at this Nephiri. As much as we talk about a gold lead here for RNG and all this pressure going over to the side of Milky Way and Tangyuan and being able to control the map that way, it just takes one fight to get the dog online. It just takes one double kill to get enough gold in the pocket of Beishang to really make a difference in this game, but we could be seeing that fight happen now.
They're actually taking the fight on the Hery. He's not very tanky at this point. Getting locked out into the wall, face planted goes Hery for OMG, as now Tangyuan has resets on his Spirit Rush.
Charm.
It's a lot of damage on the Moham. It's going to be about sub-half health as the Baron started up by Milky Way. RNG pushing the tempo of this game number 1.
Yeah, Hery just way too far forward. Moham is not even within the vicinity of that fight. He's not even in the area code, and that should be a Baron secure here from RNG. OMG is not scared, though. They're going to look to try and flip the game.
Going on the flank, gets headbutt away. Milky Way going to try to follow him through. Xiaoxu can't find the engage. They pulled off the Baron for this, so RNG, they're not going to get the objective they tried to fight over. Dragon is spawning now in about 30 seconds, so reset's going to come through, and that's a soul fight for RNG.
Very interesting exchange here from both of these teams. It felt like RNG definitely probably could have finished that Baron. It didn't feel like the threat was too massive, especially with Xiaoxu on the flank on the Aatrox. We're going to see that Soul be a little bit more of a priority. It will be Cloud Soul, which is actually really nice for this team in terms of making sure that a lot of their engages are available. Tangyuan continuing!
Charm! He's going to keep the reset there too, and now RNG just going to run straight at OMG. As they don't have Charlotte any longer, a lot of their space buying tools are gone. The Shattering Strike shatters Hery where he stood, and that should just be the Dragon Soul completed by Royal Never Give Up.
Charlotte just so far forward, feeling the need to contest the wave against Tangyuan. I don't understand. It's definitely a bit of an aggressive play. We've seen some interesting positioning decisions from OMG throughout this one, but that is Soul for free over to RNG. And when you're talking about what the Cloud Soul can do from this point onwards, we already talked a bit about, I was saying the ultimate cooldowns are obviously going to be a pretty big addition for RNG, but Ahri benefits so much from Cloud Soul. This game is just going to get harder and harder now for OMG, just as it felt like their aggressive tendencies were going to bring them back. We might get another exchange.
Really good flash, actually, from Niket. Or rather, JiaQi. As now, I think also the World Ender, like just getting that movement speed on those flanks that we've been seeing Xiaoxu try to go for, really, really going to be hard to deal with now. And also the fact that you're on a 6-minute timer for the Elder Dragon, which you would absolutely have to fight for. We do see 4th item is now locked in for Tangyuan. Did go to the library, did grab a book. Only 9 stacks of the papers, though. But besides that, he's got a very tanky build, very utility-oriented with that Zhonya's too, so he can just be aggressive, take these fights, take these early charm trades as well, and come out the better of it.
I think this is smart for the way that Tangyuan has been playing the game. He's been the first person on the line. He's been the one diving in and, you know, being the big playmaker for them. And with as much gold as he has and just how well he's been playing, I certainly don't blame him for having that kind of confidence. I think that that's going to continue. Vision priority is going to be massive here for OMG if they're going to be able to set up even a little bit around this Baron and around the Dragon obviously spawning in 5 minutes. That's going to be necessary for them, but it's just so hard for them to be able to get into this pit. You can't really face check a Varus and Ahri, you know, a Rel without getting a little bit scared. So we're going to need to see some priority put there from OMG.
Oh,
but
Beishang, read your spider senses. No, you knew. He's going to dash out there as well. Third item for both junglers gives them a little bit more fighting proficiency, especially Beishang. But they go for the catch. Tangyuan is going to go for the charm. Gets insta-cleanse. Captain jacking it up by Starry. As they're going to try to get the piercing arrow. Not going to hit him there, but that's going to be a big cleanse down. And Tangyuan can absolutely look for that once again. As milkyway with his Titanic Hydra completed will not end up getting the red buff. They'll be taken by the rightful owners in OMG, but now RNG can just go right back to this Baron. They have so much attack speed, they have so much damage, and they'll force the hand of OMG once again.
And this is what we were saying. It's so hard for OMG to feel like they can even try to make a play here, but they're going to try. Tangyuan is going to be able to make his way out. Oh, Niket.
Niket just trying to skate them out of the pit. Moham going ham, but it's still JiaQi who gets the Baron, and he gets killed in the end as a killer instinct came through from Starry on the backside of the fight. But now you got Reset City being visited by RNG, and they are welcome guests as Tangyuan looking for the follow-through, but Xiaoxu chasing down Beishang. You have to remember that Cloud Soul does wonders for this team, and there's the Spirit Rush reactivation. Starry can do nothing as he goes down to the might of RNG, and Hery, he's left to his own devices against Niket and against milkyway, and he'll slowly flash out, maybe dash out, maybe get out, but no, slowly but surely he will walk his way under turret, and Milky Way will claim his life. That's a full ace for RNG.
And that might be a little bit more than just the ace. Not only is it the Baron, it's the base getting broken wide open here by RNG. A chaotic, sloppy fight. You allow the Nephiri into the pit, but who cares? You can secure it with the Varus. They're able to lock it down. Middle inhibitor is going to fall alongside that top inhibitor. Like we said, that base is broken wide open, but this is really the nail in the coffin for OMG. If they were ever going to find a fight that was going to be able to get them back into the game, it was probably going to be that one, unfortunately. Just not enough damage to really be able to make it work. They had to fight on 3 different fronts, and it just didn't end up working out. We're going to see in the replay, Niket burning almost everything to just try his best to keep them out of the pit. They're still able to get into the pit. We see you know, this might come down a little bit early, just a tad bit too early, so it's secured by JiaQi. And then he actually goes down to Starry. I didn't really expect that to go that way, but when Xiaoxu gets involved, this Aatrox with that Cloud Soul is an absolute menace, running down everybody. We see Tangyuan also really being a problem with that extra movement speed, and RNG's gold difference ends up really mattering in that fight.
The fact that Spirit Rush cooldown also comes up as they're chasing too, just perfect timing. And now there's only one inhib left. It's on bot side. RNG know that. They have about a minute left on this Baron power play for them. See if they can get this last inhib cracked and put some lasting damage with the double super minions spawning into OMG's base. Wave clear is still present for OMG. All RNG need is one good engage. Tangyuan is going to try to go for the push with the double waves here. Try to get some damage onto these Nexus turrets. Force OMG to readapt and move away from this bot lane.
We're going to need to see what kind of adaptation they want to make. They've got supers in on their Nexus turrets right now. RNG is going to have a free pass to take this bot inhib because of that pressure that Tangyuan is generating, but we're going to have to see OMG make a decision soon. The further this gets into their base, the harder this fight's going to get.
Oh, they're going to go down to it. Freaked out there. He popped Spear Rush and went golden. 4-man Magnet Storm from Niket. From his time on Ultra Prime, you bring back some good memories. This RNG team is pumped, and they know what's at stake tonight. They know that their split 3 is on the line, and they're here to deal out business as they come in game 1, smashing success, over 15,000 gold up. and it's a match point success for RNG. One more game.
Huge win for RNG. Obviously, we've talked so much about the stakes that are on the line between these two teams, but to win in such emphatic fashion in game number 1 is ginormous for RNG moving forward. You just gotta make sure you have that confidence, and we saw everything we could have possibly wanted to see out of milkyway, out of Tangyuan, and out of the entire RNG lineup.
The mid-jungle combo, I love to see they draft this. It's usually the Vi with the Ahri, but they go with the Xin Zhao, they go with that skirmish setup for the two of them, and they got active early and often, even if it took a little bit to get off the ground running. The lead was slow and steady and eventually ballooned. And just some really, really good heads-up plays from Tangyuan. The angles he was taking, the aggressive charms moving in with the spirit rushes. I think this guy had a masterclass on the Ahri, and these are the kinds of moments like, man, RNG, where was this for the rest of the split?
Yeah, this was as good as you could ask for from them to start this series. You mentioned Tangyuan. I think we're going to have a pretty easy conversation around MVP, at least from my perspective. But the Ahri was on the front line. I mean, this is the advantage of being able to build that Roa early and making sure that you have a lot of those extra, tank stats. The ability to survive in these fights it offers you the ability to play so much more aggressive. And I love that RNG felt the confidence to kind of put it on the shoulders of one of their longest running players on this team to really say, we're going to have a lot of priority in the middle of the map. We want it to be in your hands when it really matters the most here. I think he paid it out in full. We talked in draft about how the Xin Zhao, the Ahri, they needed to link up. The onus was on them to create a lot of the action, and boy, did they create it here.
And the jungle matchup panned out a little bit more favorably for milkyway, but I will say Beishang did have some good motives early on into the game itself, so I definitely want to keep an eye on that jungle matchup and see if it pans out a little bit differently in game number 2, but I gotta say, one thing remains ever present and always true for Niket. His rel will make game-changing plays. I think a lot of the Magnet Storms were really good from this guy, and there's a reason why, honestly, I was surprised he went to RNG of all teams after his time on Ultra Prime, and seeing all the successes he had with that team towards the latter part of his stint there. But this guy still is a real deal at support.
He is the playmaker for RNG. He's pulling bans on Nico every single game because he just can't allow anything that can have that much of an impact. The rel was gigantic throughout, especially the back half of this game. We saw so many different 3 or 4-man rel ultimates that just completely changed the iteration of how these teams wanted to fight it out. We can see the gold graph coming up on the screen, and just a pretty sight for RNG in terms of the gold difference across this game. But Niket really doing a great job to set everybody up. I do want to point out JiaQi as well in the bot lane, who I think played pretty well on this Varus. The positioning could be a little bit over-eager at times, but some really clutch ultimates that we pointed out throughout the game. Excited to just see this RNG team feel comfortable and really play something that they feel like they can control the game on and, kind of go from there.
And that does bring us to the conversation of, is this going to be a consistent factor or a consistent night for RNG? Because they just doubled their wins of games, by the way. Both teams only winning one game, one map in total throughout the season so far. So feels good for RNG to get under the wind of their belt, but do we feel like it's a lasting success? I mean, this is Group Nirvana. This is the group of absolute chaos. And even with this performance, I feel like OMG has something up their sleeve.
Yeah, I think going over to blue side now for OMG is going to be
no doubt.
Big. Presumably, going over to blue side, we should say. Technically, we don't have that announced yet. But, getting side selection here for game 2 is going to be pretty massive. For RNG, I think the thing that encouraged me is that they were willing to try and play for early game skirmishes. They were willing to try and control the game themselves. OMG opting more so into that scale, try to play it out late, play for Neferi, play for Kai'Sa style. It was clear they weren't quite as comfortable having to give a lot of that pressure over to the side of RNG. I think especially going over to blue side, I would love to see OMG really, step up and challenge RNG in this early game. Really try to pick something that they feel they can have that tempo on, because this game, it just felt like the moment that things started to go wrong for them, they didn't have the tools to be able to get themselves back in.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like whoever takes that kind of early tempo in the game will have a strong advantage moving forward, because we know that at least decision-making isn't always the cleanest. Even in this series, the game in game number 1, we saw a lot of pretty chaotic decision-making from even RNG's side of things in some of those earlier stints. Once they had a massive gold lead, it obviously made no difference. But this one, I think Moham is going to want back a little bit. even got the headbutt out, but it wasn't in time, and JiaQi able to secure that Baron. But it was a good showing from RNG in a moment that mattered so much for both organizations, but RNG, the one to at least move out to a match point here in this best of 3.
All you got to do is win one now, and you're surviving.
Yep.
But
for at
OMG,
least another series, at least one more series.
Just one more. You got to get that opportunity available to you. For OMG, you've got one game. You've got to figure it out now. No more learning period. The grace period has ended in terms of making sure that Beishang and Charlotte and all of these players feel comfortable playing together. All of the extra attention that they've needed, it's all gone. They've got to do it now. It is now or never for them. That's why I just want to see them play something that they can really control the game on, because I'm really scared that they're just going to pick another scaling comp. They've done this a lot this year and try to play it out. I think if they challenge RNG, they have the talent. We know they have the mechanical skill to be able to go up against them. I just want to see them have the confidence in themselves to be able to pull that off.
Now, who do you think gets MVP for this one? Is it Tangyuan, or maybe milkyway deserves a little bit of shout?
I would go Tangyuan myself. I think that he was just so far ahead throughout the game. I think the Ahri, the effect that he was able to have, not only in terms of his own lane, obviously, but on the map in the mid game, the moment we saw the 2-0 and 2 Ahri after that first fight, it was very difficult for OMG to be able to walk into any of those situations. His ability to control space, I think, was very valuable. Don't sleep on Niket as a player of the game candidate. He was really awesome here, but to me, the mid-jungle duo, they both deserve their flowers. They both played excellent.
They do. I think the trio is very strong together. It is Tangyuan who gets the MVP for his Ahri performance. Again, at this point, the longest standing member of RNG, which is a heck of a statement to say, but a 10-1 and 12 Ahri performance will earn him his second MVP. Got the MVP off their only game win before this one, so he's got a 100% success rate there.
Yeah, we've got the story now. We've got the narrative of if Tangyuan is able to carry, they win games. Give him the resources, invest into this guy. It clearly works, but it's just good to see him start to get comfortable again. It feels like a lot of the losing that RNG have done over the last year or so has really affected him confidence-wise, and so to see him come out in a game like this and not just do well on Ahri, but to be on the front line, to be the primary playmaker, to control a lot of the tempo, it's exactly what you want to see out of a player that we all had really high expectations for in Tangyuan.
Well, that's it for game number 1. As we do get ready for it, it is a situation where it feels really good for RNG, but feels really bad for OMG. I'm hoping to see a little bit of a comeback in that situation. Before we get going and off to game 2, we're extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level the show up on a daily basis. A lot of the initial payments have gone to upgraded graphic, all these cool things, the bells and whistles that we've had, and to pay the on-air talent and behind-the-scenes talent who make this possible on a daily basis. Every day of the week, our volunteering knows no bounds here. But a huge shout out. If the links will be in the chat, please go check it out. It would help us a lot to subscribe to Coffee and YouTube. Maybe even get opportunities to ask them interview questions and see some behind the scenes content. But that's it for game number 1. We're going to head off into a break for game number 2. We'll see you there.